Welcome to the Divorce TV show live stream. I have a very special guest today who I'm so keen to talk with. It's going to be really hard to cram it all in because she does so many things. And a lot of what she does is very, very relevant to supporting people through divorce. And just a little brief look, we've got Jo Swann today. She is an adventurer first, then an author, and we'll be talking about her book. And she's also a psychotherapist. I love the order, and that's the first thing I'm going to be talking about with Jo now. Welcome, Jo.
Hi, Susie. Thanks for having me.
So great to have you here. And yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to ask you, because on LinkedIn, most people would put psychotherapist first, but you put adventurer, and I absolutely love that. So tell me, because you've done some amazing things, haven't you? Give us a little sense of what your adventures have been.
Yes, so I put adventurer because, and actually it was LinkedIn that invited me to kind of reflect on what I am. And adventurer, I thought is really the best name and what I can relate to. I live in Borneo. I've lived here for 20 years. I'm originally from the UK, and it's my belief that we have this human experience to experience life. And that's my purpose. I think a lot of people can get very hung up on what is their purpose in life. And so for me, I just made it simple. I like the simplicity on the other side of complexity. And so I decided, you know what, that my purpose in life is to experience it. And how am I going to do that? Through adventures. So that's
So what led
that's
to
what
you
I did.
what led to you choosing Borneo of all the places that you could have lived?
Good question. So I'm a scuba diver, and my husband and I set up our scuba diving company in the year 2000. And at the time, we were organising outbound travel. And one of the locations that we came to was Sabah in Borneo because it has world-class scuba diving. It has an island off the coast um, that it's an underwater volcano, and it slopes to 3,000 meters. So we decided, let's go and have a look, fell in love with the place. And then it took us 5 years to move our company from the UK over to here. So I think first and foremost, it was scuba diving, but I love nature. I love wildlife. I love color. I love the blue oceans, the green jungles, the black mountains. So yeah, it was scuba diving initially, and then love of nature and wildlife.
And how did the psychotherapy fit in with the scuba diving?
Right. So the psychotherapy was with me from a very, very young age. I I've always been interested in the brain, the most complex system in the known universe. And coupled with that, I always had a feeling, a knowing that in my lifetime I would find out why we're here. So we've gone deep quite quickly. But so in the early 90s, I decided to study the brain. So I studied psychology, not straight from school. I actually left school when I was 16, and because I wanted to work. But I returned to psychology in the early 90s. At that time, we couldn't even see the brain. We didn't really know much about it. And we thought that by the time you were 7 years old, that was it, done. There was I think we were taught that there was a small window of opportunity when you were 12 years old to rewire the brain, but then that was it for the rest of your life. And then it was only, so psychology, to answer your question, I studied in the 90s, and I went on a spiritual seeking journey for 2 years, having a look at all of the religions. None of them really resonated. And then I went to work, did all my adventuring. And then when COVID hit, we have this adventure company that obviously came to a grinding halt because no one was traveling. And my husband and I decided we would keep it going, we would downscale. One of the downscaling meant I was made redundant from my own company. So that, but that freed up my time to return to psychology. So then I restudied as a strategic psychotherapist, which I love because it's all about strategy and it's all about really targeting what is the problem, how is someone doing the problem, and solving the problem rather than diving deep into the past trauma. It's useful to know sometimes why the problem is there, but really it's about how is this person doing this problem now. So I restudied, became a strategic psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic programmer, and just deep dived really for 2 years into study. And then I started taking on clients and I set up my practice all online. And that has that then brought me, well, maybe I should stop there for now.
Well,
Otherwise I'll tell
yes,
you everything.
because I was gonna, before I ask how that then led you into the book, I just
Yeah.
wanted to kind of sidetrack slightly. I was really interested what you're saying about the way you describe the psychotherapy you use. So, um,
Mm,
you know, psychotherapy is, I think, essentially certainly something I would refer people to who've had any kind of career trauma, and obviously divorce itself is a trauma, but often it will bring up other traumas from childhood, and they are so blocking that unless someone deals with those, it's very difficult for them to just deal with the everyday stuff of how do you get a divorce. But
yeah.
my experience with so often people don't get confused between counselling and uh, and coaching, and
Mm,
obviously psychotherapy is much more than counselling. There's
mm,
different, but most people don't know. As far as I'm aware, it tends to be a lot deeper. You have to be blunt, often higher professional qualifications, can deal with more
mm,
difficult situations than perhaps some counsellors would be able to. In fact, they would probably
mm,
refer on. Um, but you talk more like a coach in
mm,
that empowering someone. So it's not just about understanding what's happened and being aware of it, but it's
mm,
then, well, what do I do now? And
yeah.
sometimes I feel that that's where there's this sort of uh, rift between people going to see a counsellor for years to talk about the same trauma, and then they go to a coach and they go, okay, I need to get this done, and they manage to move past their trauma and do it.
Mm.
That's probably quite a simplistic view, but I'd like to hear you talk about it because you seem to bridge that gap from what you're saying.
Yes, I've blended quite a lot of tools really. I've blended, as you said, I've blended psychology, ancient philosophy, health and wellness, even goals and desires, visions. So it really is a combination. And I think the reason that I did that was because, I speak from experience. I think we can all agree we've all had trauma of some kind, whether it's the big T or the small T. But we've we've been gifted this amazing human experience, and we haven't been gifted with a toolbox of
No.
how to actually get through it. And whilst early on I found myself helping a lot of people in the health and fitness area. I've been an ambassador for Lifebook for many years, and so it was
And
health and
just so what's Lifebook?
Lifebook is part of Mind Valley. It's quite big here in Asia, so
Mm.
it's a self-development online platform. And so there's 12 categories of Lifebook, and one of them is health and fitness. And I've always been very interested in health and fitness. And I was particularly interested in addiction and dependency. So food, alcohol, drugs, sex. And so I was drawn towards helping people in those areas. And I very soon realized that, it's not about the thing at all. It goes much, much deeper. And that's where I think the psyche has just plays such an important role. So that's when I began to blend everything, and I've even blended some of my spirituality as well, because I think that if you have an understanding that you're more than this human being, you're a being first and you're a human being second, that's incredibly empowering. There's a lot of liberation that comes with that. So yeah, I've blended a lot of modalities. I use a lot of different tools and created a framework that I really think is a good toolkit for this human experience.
That sounds fantastic to me, as I sometimes find the I'm not at all into religious dogma. No offense to people who are,
No.
but I think we are very spiritual, multifaceted beings, and that if you can come at any issue from such a holistic perspective, that's just much more effective, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And as we all know, most things in life, it's not. We say starts up here, but no, it's really here, isn't it? And it's all so combined. So I'm really interested to find out more now what made you come into writing the book, and how the book reflects some of the things we've just been talking about.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So the book was really interesting. I noticed that although the people that I'm helping, their problems are very unique, but the patterns were the same. So for example, if someone is experiencing anxiety, I know that they're uncomfortable with uncertainty. They don't have a mechanism in place to distinguish between what's possible and what's probable. They're over catastrophizing. So although they might be worrying about something completely different to somebody else, there's a pattern. And then I realized that the way that I worked with people was actually followed a framework. And interestingly, I don't know if you know this or not, but the framework itself, I actually came up with whilst I was underwater, deep diving, over a period of 9 dives, 9 scuba dives, when your prefrontal cortex just quietens down a little bit and you have more insight. I started in my mind to formulate the framework of Atlas that I'd come up with, which takes people, that's how I was taking people therapeutically through resolving their problems over a period of usually around 3 months, which is fairly fast in terms of therapy. So I wanted to streamline the work that I was doing and streamline my thoughts around it. And so I created this framework, and that evolved into a book pretty quickly. In fact, over a period of, again, I wrote the book within 3 or 4 months, which is quite fast, but it's over 3 decades worth of experience channeled into 3 months. So I wrote my book Turbulence. As intense as it gets, it's just turbulence. And that metaphor came from a flight that I was on. I used to have a fear of flying, which I've resolved. But when I was in the turbulence, I thought, this is it. This is my life right now, and it might end. And then we navigated to the blue skies above, and everything was fine again. And I thought, that's actually a great metaphor for life, isn't it? Because when we're in the turbulence, when we're in the thick of the storm, when we're emotionally charged, we often can't see a way out. But actually what we need to do is we just need to have the right tools so we can navigate. We can either navigate ourselves out of it, we can see it and avoid it, or we might even need to rest. So that's what the framework of Atlas provides. It provides a navigation route out or away from the turbulence. And it helps us realign with our internal compass, because the direction that we're going, I believe, comes from us. We have everything we need. We've just lost our way. We've just not lost that connection with our internal compass. So that's what the book offers. It offers people to build their own map, use the tools to build your own map, align with your own compass to navigate your own way through the turbulence of life.
Fabulous. And you mentioned tools, and I know I was keen to hear a little bit about tolerance for uncertainty. I know you talk about that, and also a rapid rewire. They all sound that sounds quite exciting. But I suppose the best question to start with on this is, what are the best tools for someone who's navigating, not just navigating the trauma of divorce, because it is a trauma, even when it's amicable, but when you're also dealing with perhaps somebody who's not being very nice during the process, or you've become aware but you didn't realize before that you're in an abusive relationship. There can be so many complicated layers. So which tools do you think are the kind of first go-to ones that you would do if you were working with someone who's dealing with that kind of complex family separation, divorce type of situation?
Yeah, great question. I think the first tool, and this is so powerful, is the awareness of self. And I made that tool chapter 1 in the book. And awareness of self brings our attention to who we are at our true nature. And it gives us the opportunity to rest in our true nature. Because the moment that we add anything onto I am, so for example, I am married, I am divorced, I am anxious, I am a doctor, I am a cleaner, whatever you assign to the I am, you're immediately limiting yourself. So what I do with the awareness of self is through guided through a guided meditation, I teach people how to go inward and connect with their true self. This does two things. Number one, it creates distance between you and the circumstance, what's going on. So I've even used it with a lady who was in an abusive relationship, and she needed to distance herself from the chaos in the moment. And this is where the tools are so powerful, because they are designed to be used in the moment when you're emotionally charged. So this awareness of self, you can have everything going on, but you can find that place within you that you can rest in, that's peaceful, that's full of love, that is not identified with anything else that's going on around you. And that's an extremely powerful place to come from. Yeah. So that's the what I would say before I go on and tell you about all the other things.
Let's take that. No,
that's the most important.
That's the heart of it.
Yeah.
And it starts, I guess, with that, if I'm interpreting this correctly, with that focus with the guided meditation, you're putting people in a place of where they are going to create awareness. They're not sitting there as a victim saying, what's wrong with me? How do you fix me? Yeah. They are immediately in a place where they're going to find, in a safe, controlled way, get to the root of who they are and what they need to do, which is a very empowering approach, and gentle as well, isn't it? Because a lot of people, I think, are sometimes afraid to get help because they're so struggling just with daily life that the thought of even talking about it with someone is so triggering and so frightening to them. So before you obviously I want to hear about some of your other tools, but I'm really keen to know what your own life experiences, as many as you're happy to share, or maybe there's some of them are in the
Mm.
book, that have kind of formed the way you work.
Hmm. So I think that my life has actually been full of uncertainty. And this is why I came to realize how powerful it was for us to recognize that we're biologically wired with a very low tolerance for uncertainty, because that's what kept our species alive. Our species was designed to have this low tolerance for uncertainty because we needed to know where the next meal was going to come from. We needed to know where we were going to be able to sleep safely. And fortunately, we don't need to know those things so much anymore. You know, generally we know where our meals are coming from and we know where we can safely sleep. Yet we still have this instinct for a low tolerance of insecurity. And I think, you know, when we have these big life transitions, and certainly divorce is one of them, that's something that we can increase. We can recognize that when we have this low tolerance for insecurity, for uncertainty, we start catastrophizing. And it's those catastrophizing and ruminating thoughts that keep us awake. You know, there's lots of what ifs and if onlys. And if we can recognize that, and we have a tool then to start distinguishing between the thoughts and the feelings that we need to pay attention to, the catastrophes, and we start to expand that tolerance and increase that tolerance for uncertainty, that's when life becomes much, much easier. So in my life, I've had a lot of uncertainty. I left school when I was very young. I didn't know, I don't come from a wealthy family. I come from a working class family. I've always had to earn my own money. I moved around quite a lot. I was given incredible opportunities with no SOP. I had to work it out for myself. And even moving here to Borneo, we had a small company in the UK, a dive centre, but certainly not enough to bring in a good income. So yeah, a lot of uncertainty. But if you can really um, increase that tolerance, then you can be bold enough to make decisions without knowing what the outcome's going to be. And that builds a lot of self-trust. And then that tolerance for uncertainty expands and expands, and your self-trust improves and it improves. So I would say that that's probably one of the biggest teachers in my life, is the uncertainty that I've grown up in.
And rapid rewire is another one of your
Mm,
ones. So that's much more about, presumably about, I would say, I don't like the word fixing, but resolving, because there's
yeah,
one thing I'm guessing here, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about what it is, but my guess is that it's around the idea that we are so wired to think and feel certain ways and have certain views of ourselves that it's, even if we understand that we're doing it, it's very difficult to change it. And perhaps also
yeah,
going back to earlier, you was I know that you will have dealt with people with addictions and compulsive
mm,
behaviour, because they tend to go and see to get help, thankfully. Perhaps talk a little bit about that in that context, if that's relevant, because I know that that's
yeah,
a huge issue in the whole world of divorce, which, as I said, is very complicated, and often
yeah.
addictions and mental health issues are key to not just causing ructions, but certainly making the whole divorce process much more stressful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Rapid Rewire came about because, again, I was seeing very positive long-term change happening with my clients very, very quickly. And traditionally, even for myself, about 20 years ago, I needed help. I needed to see a therapist, and even then, in my mind, I thought, oh, but it's going to take so long. I don't want to be in therapy for a year or two. And it just doesn't have to be that way. The neuroplasticity of our minds can, if it's highly focused, can make change possible very, very quickly in a couple of sessions. And so rapid rewire, I use the subconscious mind. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. And so I use hypnotherapy is one of the tools, and psychoeducation to literally rewire the brain, to use the malleable effects of neuroplasticity to target where the problem is. And then I use the client's resources. We call them resources. What is working for them? What are they doing well? I rewire the problem area with their resources, and for positive change. So, for example, what this works really well with, and what I've used it in the past, looking at health. Let's look at health to start with. Someone that wants to improve their relationship with alcohol. Maybe they don't want to give up alcohol altogether, but they want to stop drinking at home. They want to stop having that 5 o'clock glass of wine when they start to make dinner. And then, that's the trigger for them to maybe have half a bottle or a bottle a night. But they don't want to give it up completely. They'd like to have a glass of wine occasionally with their friends, but they want to stop it from the habitual pattern. This rapid rewire works very well for that. It works very well for people who want to stop eating junk food. If you want to just not buy, the Whisper bars, the packets of crisps, or all of this highly processed food, rapid rewire is fantastic for that. If you want to start exercising, if I use it on myself, and so I practice hand balancing. And very early on, I fell and I fractured my elbow, and then I had a fear of falling. So I used this to overcome that fear of falling. It's I worked with a woman who, she had actually been divorced. She'd been married for 30 years, and her confidence was broken. Her self-esteem was at rock bottom, and she was starting a new business. And she wanted to feel her own self-worth. She wanted that confidence and trust in herself that she could do this. Rapid rewire was brilliant. So it's just 2 sessions, and I invite people to contact me for a 20-minute conversation first, because I need to know that this is right for them. Obviously, for some people, they need longer, they need more time. So I have to know what the problem is, how it came about, how they're doing it, and then I'll use my expertise to say whether or not I think this can work for them. And if I believe it can work, that's 50% of the battle. And then the other 50% is they need to believe it can work. And it's hugely successful. And I think that it's kind of broken down those barriers as well, because it doesn't feel like therapy. And it's quick, it's the results can be seen. There's a shift immediately, but then the results, I equip people with the tools, and then they practice the tools. So they have to be committed. It's not that they don't have to do any work, because with the rapid rewire, they have an audio of the hypnosis that I have written especially for them. I've crafted it especially for them, and then they can listen to it on their own. But yeah, very powerful, very, very powerful, very successful.
Could it work potentially for the mindset about another person? So one of the challenges that I have working with people dealing with a difficult spouse in particular,
Mm.
I send them off to specialists to help them communicate, deal with narcissistic personalities, all of that. But
Yeah.
fundamentally, we'll often be having a conversation and they will get into that groove of, oh, but he or she won't do that. Well, that won't work for them. And then they'll start giving me all the reasons why, and I have to go, stop. Stop,
Yeah.
because I'm not
Yeah.
serving you and you're stuck in this groove, and I'm not even talking about them, we're talking about you.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
a massive block. Is that something that this technique could help? Because it also, might be someone who just has continual uh, negative thoughts, or where they just get,
Yeah.
it's almost like they've got stuck in a groove and they can't quite get
Yeah.
out. I mean, we all do it to some
Yeah.
extent with things, but I guess it's
Yeah.
when you're triggered in particular.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think it would work wonderfully for that. Because we're prediction machines. Our brain is just always wanting to predict what's going to happen next, and it uses past experience. And that's what the rapid rewire breaks. It just rewires what it's so highly focused. And this is where it would work for the situation you just mentioned, because that's highly, we can pinpoint exactly what the problem is. So yeah, absolutely, it would be great for that. Great.
A wonderful tool. And
Yeah.
there you are in Borneo, and I know that
Mm.
you also organise obviously trips for the diving, but you continue to organise experiences for people and travel and
Yeah.
retreats. Can you tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about those?
Yeah, I'm so passionate about it. I love it. It fills my heart. I've I live in one of the most glorious places in the world. As I said, the color, the ocean, the mountains, the wildlife. And even though I've been here for 20 years, it never gets boring, and I never take it for granted. But what I love more than anything is when I see it through new people's eyes. So my company organizes a lot of travel, and my husband runs the company now, but I still wanted to be involved somewhat. So I decided that I would start collaborating with just one or two people every year that really inspired me, that I loved their program, and I would invite them to come to Borneo and co-host a retreat with me. And so I've been running a couple of these a year. We already had one so far this year, and then my next one is in November. The one in that we've just had was trail running and yoga. So it's always things that I'm kind of really interested in. And the next one that we have in November is ecstatic dance. So it's really just, I don't know if you've heard of silent discos. So we're just going to go in nature, put on our headphones and dance.
Oh,
But
that sounds
we
so brilliant.
it,
I would love
it's
that.
it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And what I also find on these trips is there's a lot of single travelers. That it's really a lot of people are coming here, and yeah, they're single travelers. We normally have about 12, or the last group was quite a big one. We had 20 people in that one. I think the ecstatic dance is going to be more like 12 or 15. But yeah, single people, and then you meet people, and travel is just such an amazing way to just get inspiration, to change your perspective on life. And we have so much here: the orangutans, the elephants, the marine life. It's just beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And people
Yeah.
can they go diving? Are you still running this? Yeah,
Yeah.
you still got the
Yeah.
diving school. Fantastic.
We've still got the dive center. Yeah, we've still got the dive center. We've still got the travel company. But my husband runs all that. And yeah, but I couldn't let go completely, even though I was made redundant from my own company. I
you,
couldn't,
you can't get rid of you that fast.
can't get rid of me that easily.
um,
Yeah.
and can I, if it's okay, just ask perhaps a more personal question? So with you do so many things as we women
Yeah.
often do,
Yeah.
and which is brilliant, and you have a and they're all there to create a better experience for other human beings. That's what I'm hearing. So what do you think drives you every day? What makes, and what are your own aspirations and dreams going forwards?
Oh, so that's a great question. What drives me? I can honestly tell you that I wake up every morning and I'm excited for the day. I think that I listened to my own body intelligence, what it was telling me. I learned to communicate with my own body intelligence. What does it want me to do? And then I allow that to happen. So I'm driven by nature, by creating amazing experiences for people, helping people through the challenges. Like I said to you, I was in a very dark place a couple of decades ago, and I managed to work things out for myself. And if I can help people get out of places like that, that's really what I love to do. I love animals, and I'm very fortunate enough that I can help animals here as well. So yeah, I really very connected to my own body intelligence, I think, and that tells me where I need to do, what I need to do, and where I need to go. I know when I need to be outside. I know when I need to shut off from and kind of go analog and not have any digital input. So yeah, maybe and I think maybe age helps a little bit. I'm in my 50s now, so I've probably just at that point in my life where I think, you know what, everything's good. Everything's just pretty content. Yeah.
And just a couple more questions. One, as an adventurer and with the diving, have you had any underwater adventures or jungle adventures that you can share?
Oh, Susie, so many. I regularly get to swim with whale sharks, turtles, um, reef sharks. I regularly get to go to the jungle and see elephants and crocodiles, orangutans. I get to go hiking. I get to walk on the beach barefoot. Yeah, so many experiences. Climb mountain, whitewater rafting. These are things that I can do every weekend.
So your tolerance for uncertainty is actually almost negligible. You don't even need tolerance. You just do stuff.
Yeah, I just do stuff. Yeah, and yeah, there's a lot of trust. I have a lot of trust in who I am. My true nature of who I am. And I think also the beliefs that I have that this isn't just, I believe that we probably queued up for this ride. Our souls probably stood for a very long time in a queue for the ride of the human experience. And so our purpose is to live it to the absolute max. And so, yeah, I think that helps, because I think, why not? Why not do that? Just go. Why not? And through doing that so many times, I've built such an enormous trust in things work out. Life presents the answers to our problems. We just need to have the tools and the skills to manage and navigate those problems whilst life works things out. And that kind of speaks to this too will pass, because it does. This problems do pass. But in the meantime, when you're in the turbulence of it all, we need the tools and we need the skills. And that's what that was also the objective of my book Turbulence, because I wanted to empower people with those skills. So, for example, when I said about the meditation is teaching people how to do it for themselves. They don't always need to listen to me. So the tool, each chapter of the book, there's 5 chapters of the book, and each chapter presents a tool for this kind of problem. And they can either read how to practice the tool, or they can hear me, because there's a QR code which takes them to the audio, so they can hear me. So I teach them how to use the tool, and then they just need to practice the tool. So yeah, I don't know if I.
So how do we get hold of the book? So how do we get hold of this book?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon. So just look, just search for Turbulence Joe Swann, and you'll find the book.
But just even better, I'm going to be sending you links to these broadcasts, and I hope you're going to put the link in there for us in the comments, because it sounds fantastic. And and last but not least, you mentioned about animals. I could hear a little kitty cat just very occasionally in the background, very occasionally. So you have many cats that you love and care for, haven't you?
Yeah. So now everyone's going to think that I've completely lost it when I tell you that I have 80 cats. I don't have 80 cats living at home. So living in Borneo, we have a problem with street cats and dogs. And so we decided in 2016, 2017 that with some of the profits from our adventure company, Adventures in Borneo, we would build a cattery, we would build a shelter, and we donated it to the SPCA, which is kind of like the RSPCA version here, because they didn't have anywhere to keep cats. They were keeping them in cages in the dog area, which was horrendous. They were doing everything they could, but they just didn't have the resources. So yes, we built the shelter, we donated it, we moved all the cats in, and then the president said to me, "This is amazing, Joe, what a great thing to do. The only problem is we don't have anyone to run it." So I was like, oh my gosh, they don't have anyone to run it. So then I volunteer. So I run. So since 2017, I've been a volunteer for the SPCA, and with a small team of people, I help take care of the animal, the welfare of the cats in the shelter. So then, of course, I fall in love with a few here and there. So I've brought a couple home. We've got a couple in our shop. We've got a couple in our lodge. We've got a couple in our offices. So we've got a couple on the island. So I have 11 that are under my direct care in various places, and then 80 at the shelter. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So just to round off completely, I want to say thank you so much. It's been lovely talking to you. Very happy for you if you come back again later, if you've got another book or anything you've got going on, it'd be lovely to hear from you. I would also like to say how very positive I feel your approach is, and yeah, I cannot imagine how it could not help 99.9%, probably 100% of people actually could find their help, because it sounds so empowering, and I'm definitely going to be checking out your book. So thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today.
Thank you, Susie. It's been